When a supreme leader dies, most countries hold elections. Iran did something different. Within hours of Khamenei's death, before the dust settled over Tehran, before Western governments had finished writing their official statements, Iran had already chosen his replacement. No vote, no debate, no transition period. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, a man who has never held public office, never commanded troops, never negotiated a nuclear deal, woke up on March 9th as the supreme leader of 87 million people, the commander of the world's largest proxy military network, and the man with the final word on Iran's nuclear program. He is 55 years old. His father ruled for 35 years. And he has inherited a country that is already at war. Here is what Western media is not telling you about the man who just became one of the most powerful figures in the Middle East. Mojtaba Khamenei spent the last 20 years as the shadow power behind his father. Not a public figure, not a diplomat. A strategist who operated entirely out of sight, controlling the Revolutionary Guard's intelligence apparatus, managing relationships with Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, and according to multiple intelligence assessments, personally overseeing Iran's nuclear program timeline. His father was a cleric who became a politician. Mojtaba is something more dangerous, a political operator who wears clerical robes. The CIA, Mossad, and MI6 have been tracking him for 15 years. Not because he gives speeches, because he makes decisions that other people announce. When Iran responded to the strikes on Tehran with ballistic missiles hitting Israeli territory for the first time in history, that decision had Mojtaba's fingerprints on it. When Iranian proxies in Iraq and Yemen activated within hours of the leadership strike, those networks report to him. His father spent 35 years learning how to hold power. Mojtaba was born into it and spent 2 decades studying how it breaks. But here is where the story gets complicated. This morning, Iranian military and political leaders issued statements pledging full loyalty to Mojtaba Khamenei. Every general, every minister, every commander of every proxy force across 4 countries. In politics, when everyone pledges loyalty at exactly the same moment, it usually means one of 2 things. Either the transition is completely secure, and everyone genuinely supports the new leader, or the transition is extremely fragile, and everyone is watching everyone else to see who breaks first. Historical precedent strongly suggests the second option. When Stalin died in 1953, every Soviet general pledged loyalty within 24 hours. Within 3 years, half of them were purged, exiled, or dead. When Mao died in 1976, the Gang of 4 who had just received pledges of loyalty were arrested within a month. Power transitions in authoritarian systems do not fail loudly. They fail quietly in private conversations between generals who calculate whether the new leader has what it takes and whether the cost of loyalty exceeds the cost of defection. Mojtaba Khamenei has never been tested in public. Nobody knows what he does under pressure. And right now, every general in the Iranian military is making a private calculation about exactly that question. 7. That is the number of American soldiers confirmed dead in operations against Iran as of this morning. In Washington, that number is not just a military statistic, it is a political timer. The American public tolerated losses in Afghanistan for 20 years. But Afghanistan was a slow drip, 1 or 2 soldiers at a time, spread across months and years. The psychological impact was gradual. 7 soldiers in 1 week is different. 7 soldiers in 1 week is a headline. It is a Senate hearing. It is a mother on television. It is a president who said 4 weeks, now being asked why Americans are dying. Every number after 7 makes the next decision harder to avoid. And Mojtaba Khamenei, in his first 72 hours as supreme leader, has to decide whether to continue the attacks that produced those 7 deaths, pause them to test American resolve, or escalate to demonstrate that the new leadership is not weaker than the old one. Each choice has a different price. None of them is free. 72 hours is not a random number. It is the window that military strategists identify as the critical decision period in any leadership transition during active conflict. Long enough for the new leader to receive full intelligence briefings. Short enough that the enemy cannot fully adapt to the uncertainty. After 72 hours, positions harden. Military commanders on both sides adjust their posture based on signals from the new leadership. Financial markets price in a stable scenario. Proxy forces either receive new orders or continue executing old ones. The next 3 days will tell the world whether Mojtaba Khamenei intends to end this war, continue it, or transform it into something that his father never dared attempt. His father always said that the threat of Iranian power was worth more than its use. That restraint was the strategy. That the proxy network, the nuclear program, the missile arsenal were all worth more as leverage than as weapons. Mojtaba has spent 20 years watching that strategy. Now he has to decide whether he believes it, or whether he wants to prove something different. Every military analyst, every intelligence agency, and every financial institution tracking this conflict right now is running the same calculation, 3 scenarios, 3 completely different worlds. The first scenario, Mojtaba signals de-escalation within 72 hours. He uses the leadership transition as political cover, a new leader, a new opportunity for negotiation, a face-saving exit from a conflict that his country is losing on the battlefield, even if it hasn't lost strategically. The second scenario, Mojtaba continues his father's doctrine exactly, neither escalating nor de-escalating, maintaining the proxy pressure while protecting Iranian territory, playing for time. The third scenario, Mojtaba decides that the way to consolidate power internally is to demonstrate strength externally. A new strike, a bigger statement, something that tells every Iranian general who is privately calculating his loyalty calculation that the new supreme leader is not someone to underestimate. Each scenario has already happened in history, and each one produced a completely different outcome. In 1953, when Stalin died mid-Cold War, his successor Khrushchev chose scenario 1, unexpected de-escalation. The Korean War ended within months. The world exhaled. In 1979, when the Shah of Iran fell and Khomeini took power mid-crisis, he chose scenario 3, maximum demonstration of strength. American hostages, Revolutionary Guards deployed. 45 years of conflict followed. In 2011, when Muammar Gaddafi's regime began collapsing and his son Saif tried to consolidate power, he attempted scenario 2, maintain but do not escalate. He had no time. The transition failed within weeks. Mojtaba Khamenei is not Stalin. He is not Khomeini. He is not Gaddafi's son. But he is sitting in the same chair that all of them sat in, inheriting a system that only functions when it projects strength, facing enemies who are watching for the first sign of weakness, and surrounded by generals who pledged loyalty this morning and are privately calculating this evening. While the military decision plays out, the financial markets have already voted. Oil moved 4% in the first hour after Mojtaba's appointment was announced, not because traders know what he will decide, because they know that nobody knows what he will decide. Uncertainty in the Strait of Hormuz is not priced the same as certainty of conflict. It is priced worse. A known enemy is a calculable risk. An unknown leader making his first decision under maximum pressure is something that Lloyd's of London and Goldman Sachs and every sovereign wealth fund on earth calls by one word: uninsurable. China, which imports 40% of its oil through the Persian Gulf, sent a diplomatic message to Tehran within 6 hours of the announcement. The message was not about politics or nuclear programs. It was about oil flow. Keep the strait open. Whatever else happens, keep the strait open. That message tells you everything about what the next 72 hours actually mean to the global economy. Here's the paradox that nobody is saying out loud. Mojtaba Khamenei's best move, strategically, financially, militarily, is de-escalation. His country's infrastructure is damaged. His military command was decapitated. His economy was already under sanctions before the conflict began. The rational calculation points toward negotiation. But rational calculation is not what consolidates power in a revolutionary state during a leadership transition. What consolidates power is the perception of strength. And perception of strength, in the first 72 hours of a new supreme leadership, requires action, not negotiation. This is the trap that every inherited authoritarian power falls into. The moment when the rational decision and the political survival decision point in opposite directions, and the new leader has to choose which one matters more. His father chose survival over rationality for 35 years. It worked. The question is whether Mojtaba has the patience for that same calculation, or whether he will try to prove himself faster. Wars end in one of three ways. One side wins completely, one side collapses internally, or both sides exhaust themselves to a point where stopping hurts less than continuing. Iran has not won, Iran has not collapsed, and the exhaustion calculation depends entirely on what Mojtaba Khamenei decides in the next 72 hours. 7 American soldiers are dead. A new supreme leader took power this morning. Oil is moving. Gold is moving. Proxy networks across 4 countries are waiting for orders. And somewhere in Tehran, a 55-year-old man who spent 20 years in the shadows is sitting in his father's chair for the first time, reading intelligence briefings, listening to generals, and making the first decision of his leadership. The decision that will tell the world exactly who he is. The 72 hours started this morning.